Hey everyone, in today's video, I want to talk a little bit about phoneme-grapheme mapping. Over the years, I've created tons of videos where I share all sorts of phonics and phonemic awareness activities, and in many of those videos, I actually share this phoneme-grapheme mapping activity, sometimes by name, sometimes not by name, but I thought it was time for this type of activity to have its own dedicated video. So today I'm going to share what phoneme-grapheme mapping is and some of its benefits. I'm going to share how to do it with your students, and I'm going to share just a few different variations to get you started. So if you're ready to dive in, give this video a like, subscribe to my channel, and let's go. Now, phoneme-grapheme mapping has been around for quite a long time. I actually made a little brochure that I shared over on Instagram for this in one of my special needs classes, and I talked about how phoneme-grapheme mapping is a great activity to help students with dyslexia, but it's also a great activity for most of your typical students as well. In fact, it's a multi-sensory activity that's going to really promote orthographic mapping. Now, sometimes phoneme-grapheme mapping and orthographic mapping get a little bit mixed up because they are similar, but the main difference is that orthographic mapping is a process that happens in our head. It is a mental process, it's not an activity, it's not something you can teach or something you can do, right? Basically, scientists found out that orthographic mapping is what occurs when students are learning to read and storing words in their brain. For example, when students hear the word cat or see a picture of a cat like shown here, this is kind of the brain process that involves forming the letter and sound connections to the spelling of the words. So students would think, oh, cat, I want to write about a cat, and I know that cat has three sounds, k, a, t. Their oral language processor is going to connect the sounds of that word to the letters they know. So then they know that k is represented by C, A is represented by A, and T is represented by T. And this mapping of sounds to letters is permanently stored in students' brains. And if a student is able to write the word cat from memory automatically, that means that it is permanently stored in their brain. So that means they know, okay, cat, I know what that is, I know what a cat is, I want to write it on paper, I know cat has k, a, t, and I know the letters to write that down. They don't need to follow those steps explicitly like I just did, they just know it. It's the process that has already happened to help them permanently store those words in their brain. Now, since orthographic mapping is a mental process we can't teach, we do have some explicit activities we can teach to help promote orthographic mapping, and that is where phoneme-grapheme mapping comes in. So just like it sounds, phoneme-grapheme mapping is going to be a multi-sensory activity where we help students really connect sounds to their letters, phonemes to their graphemes. Now, this is a powerful and effective activity to use with your students, so it's definitely worth your time learning how to do it. So here are the 4 main steps when you are using phoneme-grapheme mapping with your kids. Now, we do want to make sure that we understand that every word has 3 main parts. It has sounds, it has letters, and it also has meaning. Keeping these 3 things in mind is really going to help with this activity. To do this with your students, step number 1 is to say a word aloud. Now, you can also show a picture to show meaning, or you can just use that word in a sentence, or you can do both. So here I would say, hat. I put this hat on my head, and I would show a picture of a hat. Step number 2 is to have students segment that word into sounds and represent each sound with a manipulative. So hat, h, a, t. There are 3 sounds, and then this is where that multi-sensory part is going to come in. There's a kinesthetic movement here as students will grab cubes or tiles and represent each sound that they hear. Now, I often like to do this with Elkonin boxes as well, so they can really see not only the cubes, but also the boxes that they are filling in for each sound in the word. Hat has 3 sounds, a, t. So here we have 3 cubes within the boxes. So we have the meaning and we have the sounds. Now we need the letters, the graphemes. Step 3 is to represent each sound with its letters. Here students will go ahead and write the letters that connect to each sound they're making. So h is H, a is A, and t is T. And step 4 is to simply look at the word and read it fluently, hat. So in this very simple process, students have thought about the meaning of a word by hearing it in a sentence or seeing an image. They have thought about the sounds in the word by segmenting the different sounds. They've connected the graphemes, and then they go ahead and read that word fluently, hat. I hope you can see that this is a relatively simple activity to implement in your classroom by following those 4 simple steps, but now let's go over a few different variations you can use with your students. The first is actually just a tip, not a variation, but when doing this with your kids, you want to make sure the words you are saying aloud match the phonics skill you're teaching with your students. You don't want to give them words that you haven't explicitly taught yet, so after you explicitly, for example, that was the word hat, so that is a CVC word with the short vowel A, you will have want to taught that to your students first before you have them practice this type of activity. The second step where we are segmenting these sounds is where you can have a lot of differentiation and make it fun for your students. Now I explained that you can use tiles or cubes and Elkonin boxes. You can also use things like Play-Doh where students make round balls and they have to push in each one. You can use poppets, I've shared these before, where they actually go ahead and pop in each one. These are individual ones. We also have bigger poppets where they can see each sound. There are many different ways you can switch this up, but this is where your multisensory part comes in. So you want to make sure that they are having some sort of kinesthetic movement where they are moving the tiles, popping the tiles, something like that. If you're looking for other multisensory activities, I have a whole video right here with tons of multisensory activities I love for both literacy and math. Now for step 3, that is the tactile portion. So you can offer tons of different markers, dry erase markers, pencils. You can offer all sorts of things for students to actually write those letters. Now, while it is very beneficial for them to actually physically write the letter, so that way they are having that letter formation practice as well, you can switch this up from time to time and have students also do this with letter tiles or letter magnets. Like I said, it is important to have them write the letters themselves, so you don't want to skip that entirely, but from time to time you can switch it up with magnets or tiles. The important part here is that they are seeing the graphemes or the letters to match each of the sounds. And step 4 is the simplest one, but sometimes we forget this. After students have written the word or created that word with magnet tiles, you want them to read it again, nice and fluently. Sometimes I like to have my students read the word 3 times and drag their finger under the letters as they read. Now I did recently come out with some phoneme-grapheme mapping mats that are so much fun for students, and these are themed to match my blending slides that look like this right here. So in the blending slides up here, I have both regular blending and successive blending options. The CVC version has a beach with a boat and it goes under each one, and students have to blend the sounds together to make a word, and then the digraph version has like an underground bug theme, and then there's a space theme. So I actually kept those same themes and I made these phoneme-grapheme mapping mats that you can use with your kids. Let me show you how they work. So these are what my mats look like. You can definitely do them with just some plain Elkonin boxes. You can even just do them with a whiteboard and draw some lines. It's entirely up to you, but I wanted to show you my fun little twist on it. So here is the digraph version. Like I said, they all match my blending slide. So this digraph version is kind of this underground with a little ant that walks through. And for each of the different skill sets, I made a word list. So here is the digraph one. And this is just a nice little teacher sheet for you. So if you're working on SH, here are some words you could use aloud, CH, TH, and then CK. I did not include WH in here. There are just very few words that don't include other vowel patterns and skills that my students wouldn't have learned yet, but you can add some in as you would like. Like I said, this is a teacher reference, but then also to make this an independent activity, I also have for each of these words here, I have an image card. So let me show you what that looks like. So if you wanted to make this an independent activity, I just went ahead and laminated this board so it could be used over and over. And then each one comes with their little, blending character, and I just attached it to a popsicle stick. And then you can cut out those word cards or those picture cards. So students would just flip one over. They would again do step 1, fish. They see a picture of what it is. Step 2 is to segment the phonemes that they hear. So sh, 3 different phonemes. Then step 3, of course, is to do the letters, right? We need to show what graphemes are representing each phoneme. So here we have f represented by F, we have I represented by I, and we have sh represented by SH. And then our last step for students is to take their little blending card and they say fish, fish, fish. Like I said, I like to have them do it 3 times. Then students can simply erase their board and flip a new card. Now they all work the same way, but just to show you one of the other options, this is the blends board for beginning consonant blends. Again, each one comes with a word list for you to use with your students. I have S blends, L blends, and R blends. But again, if students wanted to do this independently, they would simply flip a card. Swim, they have the meaning. Let's do the sounds. S, w, I, 4 different sounds in this word. Let's connect those graphemes. S, w, I, we have the graphemes, and now we blend. Swim, swim, swim. I love these mats because they could definitely be used in small groups, but again, you could make it an independent center as well. As I hope you saw in this video, not only is phoneme-grapheme mapping highly effective for your students and promotes orthographic mapping, but also there are so many different ways to make it nice and fun and engaging for your students. Those mats I just shared with you are available in the SJT Literacy Club, so if you're a member, be sure to log in and download those. And if not, I did just upload them to TPT, so I will link those in the description for you to check out. I would love to know from you if this is an activity that you like to do with your students, and if you have any tips or tricks or fun ways to kind of switch it up, let us know down in the comments. As always, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up so I know. Make sure you are subscribed to my channel and click that bell. That way you're notified of every new video. See you in the next one. Bye.